Hi, I'm Kevin Abramowski. I have a short, half-page pre-written note here. Hello, and thank you for having this hearing. I could go over the fact that cannabis is safer than alcohol, how it's mostly non-addictive, has medical benefits, but most of us are familiar with those points. Instead, I'd like to speak about the idea of local governance and public opinion. The 10th Amendment grants states the rights to vote legalized medical and recreational cannabis. And in the same vein, this legislative body has the ability to guide and inform the local judicial system on its priorities, behaviors, and convictions. And simply put, I believe the current criminalization of cannabis possession and cultivation goes against the very concept of criminal justice due to the nonviolent and victimless nature of the activity. Also, the enforcement of these laws have already destroyed far too many lives and broken too many families within our community. Therefore, I strongly urge you to support this initiative and guarantee you'll have the support of the majority of the population on this issue, at least a younger demographic. Secondly, I would like to speak about the public view of law enforcement. I spent time with Anthony Baney at Occupy Buffalo, where out of the whole nation, we received some of the warmest treatment from both the city and local police. To this day, whenever the currently hot topic of police brutality is discussed, I always mention and praise the restraint and even accommodation of the city towards the Occupy protests. Our city was a shining example of the honorable police conduct and how both citizens and free speech were treated with respect. And I thank you all for that. With that said, passing this cannabis decriminalization initiative would be another big step in the right direction for public opinion of both the police and the city government as a whole. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Anthony. I'd like to thank council members for the meeting. Prepared a quick statement. Both my parents are cancer survivors, and neither of them have been able to get access to medicine that would greatly increase their quality of life. Under the current system, even if you are to obtain medical cannabis, you have to give up any pain medication that you are prescribed. The CCA is too restrictive, and there are many serious health conditions affecting people right here in Western New York that need to be added to the current CCA list. I also advocate for legalization and the right for personal cultivation. There is a large influx of money headed into the cannabis space. It's just a question of who's going to get it first. There is preliminary data and studies showing the results of legalization in different countries. Crime and hard drug use rates drop dramatically in countries and states where marijuana or cannabis has been legalized. I personally think cannabis legalization could also help with the current opioid epidemic and help lower income and minorities to get out from under the harsh rule of the failed war on drugs. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Wendy Hamburg from Hamburg. I just wanted to talk about, I don't know what the big deal is about this. I'm trying to get over the stigma. Everybody needs to get over the stigma that's attached to this plant. It's, there's so much hypocrisy that people are smoking it everywhere, yet it's still illegal. Compassionate Care Act has failed. I've been trying since January. I still am jumping through hoops and trying to get the medicine that I need. But yeah, if this was something other than cannabis, if it was a different plant, call it St. Mary Jane's wort or something, some new plant that had the healing properties, you know, that maybe Dr. The talk show host could talk about this new healing plant. If it was anything other than cannabis, you know, everybody would be, you know, rushing there faster than Black Friday sales to clamor and get the medicine and get the plant. and smoke it or eat it or vape it or put it in a lotion or bathe in it, because yes, you can put cannabis extract in bath salts, just like Epsom salts. There's so many things that can be done with this plant, and it's our right to have this plant. It should be rescheduled, yes. The federal government doesn't want to listen. Governor Cuomo and Health Commissioner Zucker don't want to listen. They're sticking their fingers in their ears and saying that the Compassionate Care Act is working and it's slow going and please be patient. Well, we're sick of being patient. There's still kids out there that are having seizures, life-threatening seizures every single day that don't have this medicine. And the ones that do are paying up to $2,000 out of pocket just to get the medicine. These parents should be able to grow a plant in their tomato garden that can help save their kids. That, aside from the medical aspect of it, I'm trying to get past the stigma. My kids, 9-year-old twins here, they know all about it. They've seen everything on the news. They watch the documentaries with me. They've seen the Colorado, the growth in Colorado, all the products that are available, such as the edibles and so forth, and everything that is available in other states that are legalizing. And they also see me with fibromyalgia, post-chemo issues, and many fatigue issues. They mostly see me in bed every day. They see me more in bed than out of bed. So this medicine, this plant, should be descheduled, should be legalized, it could be regulated and taxed, and it could be such a benefit for Buffalo that I wish something could really be done, to some resolution to move forward, to work around the Compassionate Care Act. Since there is no dispensary in the city of Buffalo, there's only 2 dispensaries. They're both in Williamsville. I'm wondering if something can be done through the city charter to maybe encourage some other growth, along with decriminalizing, encourage some other type of legalization for personal use and get over the stigma. Everybody needs to get over the stigma. It's just a plant, and most people smoke it and don't admit it. So let's get past that.
Yes, my name is Hamid Thompson. The reason I'm down here today, I was coming to talk about the Cannabis Act. And basically, I want to speak about how the weed arrest really affects a lot of black males, black people more, and particularly in Latinos more than anyone else. I'm not saying legalize marijuana, I'm just saying for the fact it should be decriminalized. I'm doing a little research now. I find out that if you get caught with a dime bag of marijuana, you cannot receive a Pell Grant to college. I don't see why a 10 bag of marijuana should stop you, make you ineligible for federal student aid. So not only that, for $10, that's going to affect your whole life. It's not only that, I'm watching the news now, and I see that with the heroin epidemic, I see how the approach is to this. It's more now, it's about passion, it's about let's take care of the victim. But marijuana, not legalized, but it should at least be decriminalized. It shouldn't affect people's lives over the long term. You shouldn't lose financial aid just for having a $10 bag of. That shouldn't. You're 18 years old. That shouldn't affect you the rest of your life. And I believe that with the heroin thing, I'm saying the same thing should go both ways. If you're gonna be compassionate towards opiate abuse, how it's getting pushed right now. When I grew up, it was just say no. You got the willpower, just say no. And Nancy Reagan, rest in peace. But that was us. It was basically just say no. You can fight it off, just say no. But I'm saying that marijuana, the usage of it, young people using it, I'm saying you shouldn't ruin their lives because of it. It shouldn't hamper them 10 and 15 years down the line because they caught with before they have marijuana. I'm not saying legalize, I'm saying at least decriminalize. Same way in New York City is. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anthony Baney. I am speaking on behalf of the silent majority. Thank you for having me come to speak. On behalf of those who are scared after almost 100 years of these draconian and inhumane laws, have we not learned from the failure of alcohol prohibition? We say repeating the same mistakes expecting different results is insanity, and that is exactly what these laws have brought upon our communities, specifically lower income and minority communities. In Buffalo, we are supposed to be a city of good neighbors, not a city of criminals. So why would we continue to criminalize those who have not harmed others? President Jimmy Carter summed up perfectly in a speech on drug abuse to Congress on August 2nd, 1977. Penalties against possession of a drug should not be more damaging to an individual than the use of the drug itself. And where they are, they should be changed. Nowhere is this more clear than in the laws against possession of marijuana and private for personal use. In Buffalo, when someone is arrested for possession of marijuana, they are limited from federal student aid loans, just like he had mentioned before. If they were receiving any aid upon conviction, upon the third offense for any amount of possession while receiving aid, a student will lose aid indefinitely. This seriously disadvantages a population of Buffalo that is already struggling. In Buffalo, the Buffalo police target minority communities with low-level marijuana possession arrests. In 2014, African Americans made up 79.3% of low-level marijuana arrests. In 2015, it was worse, 82%. And that comes from the New York Division of Criminal Justice Services. We're not pulling this out of High Times magazine. However, in 2010, African Americans only made up 38% of the population in Buffalo. In 2014, there were 497 arrests for low-level possession. Out of these, 394 are African Americans, 63 were white, and 33 are Hispanic. National statistics show that illicit drug use is quite even when comparing African Americans, whites, and Hispanics. In a national survey conducted by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, 8.8% of Hispanics had admitted to using an illicit substance in the last month, with 9.5% of whites and 10.5% of African Americans. The cost that these laws have on our communities is burdensome in terms of equality and due process, but also in terms of fiscal expenditures. An ACLU report found that the average cost of housing an inmate for marijuana charges is $95 a day. If there were 400 arrests in 2014, then it's safe to say that the city of Buffalo spent over $40,000 housing inmates arrested for marijuana. Imagine if the city of Buffalo had spent that money on its underfunded public schools. What a novel idea, right? I hope that this committee will take very seriously the urgency to reform the enforcement of these unconstitutional, primitive, and irresponsible laws. Each member has the opportunity to sponsor the Buffalo Cannabis Act and bring it to a vote. And then vote yes. That is what I'm asking for, and I hope that I have helped shine the light on an issue that our media seems to ignore, even though the majority support reform. You guys obviously don't supersede state laws, but you can pass a home rule resolution urging the state legislature to take reform on these penal laws. You can do that. You have that power. We tried to obtain a permit to help educate the public on this issue at Delaware Park, and we were denied because the public Buffalo Police Deputy Commissioner said marijuana is illegal. Well, in certain circumstances it is, but if you read Public Health Law Chapter 90, it allows for certain circumstances of medical marijuana to be used. I could use the same argument for alcohol. Alcohol under the age of 21 is not legal. So we're going to deny every permit for an event because of alcohol? What about riding your bike? It's a Class D vehicle. You ride on the sidewalk, that's illegal. What about transport of sugar? Over 5,000 pounds is illegal across state lines if it's not regulated properly. It's insanity that we cannot have an event to help educate the public. It's ridiculous. And I hope that this council takes it very seriously. And there's been reports in the media about minorities being targeted by the Buffalo Police, and it's time for you guys to take some action on this. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, thank you, and thank you to all the speakers. Several things, this council did support and medicinal marijuana. And I remember when Crystal Peoples-Stokes first started talking to me about this, Assemblywoman. I'm 1964 baby, so I grew up, of course, with understanding, that's the law. You put everybody in jail, and as the speaker said today, we do have a disproportionate amount of people who are in jail. Now, I am not a proponent at this point in my life for legalizing marijuana. Let me be clear. However, you know, we were looking at different articles about New York City and the stopping of arresting for marijuana possession for small amounts. Now, this might sound real crazy that I think we should continue the conversation in a very serious manner to look at the disproportionate amount of people who, and let me say this, the law is the law right now. You got marijuana on you, and you know what the law is, and you break the law, you got to suffer the consequences. That's just what it is. However, I think that is, I'm not afraid to say, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about these small amounts, and with not just those who are bringing this proposal to us, but with our police department, with healthcare folks, because we need to know what the effects are on the body. I can't tell you. I don't know. But what I'm not afraid of, if it meant at times relieving our police department for, and not that, again, if you say go 30 miles an hour and you go 40 miles an hour, you're breaking the law. So you can't say, I shouldn't get a ticket. You knew what the law was. So if I'm on TV, so I got to be careful. You smoking a little weed, and the law says you can't smoke weed, and you get caught with weed, it's what it is. However, I don't think just like I was open to have the conversation of the medical marijuana, and it really did change my opinion. You know, when I talked to families that were dealing with children with seizures, and I don't think that they staged the results. You know, and I think we're talking more about on the penalty side and whether people are arrested or, like in New York, or are given a ticket. Do they still call it a joint? When I was growing up, they called it a joint. Is it still called a joint? I don't want to be uncool. So he said I could call it a joint. So if a person has a joint, now again, remember, I'm 51 years old. I grew up in a very strict household. So, but if a person has a joint, should they be locked up till they get out of jail? I just had a breakfast with someone from DA's office who talked about, you know, when a court sets a bail, you know, they can set it so high that then the person can't get out of jail, then they lose their job, then they really need weed. Because they're unemployed now, and they, you know, so now, and I'm saying it is, but it's this kind of cycle down effect that even the attorneys are having the conversation. I don't know how we continue it like offline so that I would be interested in being educated. Now, I'm going to tell you this, the way in this form, you know, most of this I can't agree with, but what I can agree with is the necessity to begin having that conversation of looking at what other areas are doing. You know, is it effective? Is it increasing the illegal drug market, or is it decreasing? Is it freeing up the courts? You know, Mr. Fairletto is an attorney. I don't know how many people he's represented in court for marijuana charges, or if he even does. But I'm not afraid to have the conversation, especially when it talks about, you know, I don't know if I'm on the wrong side of this fence, but we just got a lot of people sitting in jail right now, and it's up to like the discretion of the judges of how much these bails are set for. And so I think that's the part of the conversation I want to have, not well, people shouldn't be in jail. Again, the law says 30, and you do 40, and you know the law says 30, you got to try to change the law up to 40 and not say, you know, for me. So I don't know, Mr. Chair, how we have it, but I'm not one to totally dismiss having the conversation or being educated on what this group and other groups are asking. What I would like is a lot more comparative information on an academic level, if possible, the metrics that shows us, because some cities have, you know, changed some rules to see how that's working so that we can have a intelligent conversation on the subject. That's just my thought as one individual.
My name is Virgil. I've been in the health force system for over 20-something years. And many of the clients that I have come across are taking medication that takes them through many different reactions. A lot of times they're allergic to it, and they have a negative effect to that thing. And with marijuana being so natural and being grown, there's not many side effects. I had heart attack not too long ago, and some of the medication that I had to take, I was extremely allergic to. And in the midst of that, I went through a whole bunch of different things. So when people talked about marijuana, I was the first person against it, simply because I was like, oh, it is the law. But when I went through something personally myself, I was sitting there like, oh man, this is not good. I would rather do something that I don't have side effects to. And 9 times out of 10, the things that is pushed out right now by the big companies for pharmacy, you go through a whole bunch of other different things that you have to have your blood tested and your kidney shut down and things of that nature. I don't hear that happening from cannabis. Body parts shutting down, or you have to go through dialysis and things of that nature. So I mean, at this time, maybe we should look at something, because it may be a betterment for everyone's life. Thank you.
Councilmember Farrelletto.
Thank you. I just wanted to add into what Council President Pridgen was saying. And when I worked for the New York State Senate several years ago, I was working for Senator Grisanti at the time, and before he was a judge, he was a criminal defense attorney, and one bill that he was looking at in New York State was carrying a small amount of marijuana was a violation, or that person could be arrested. So it was the officer's discretion. And this has absolutely nothing to do with the Buffalo Police, because this was a state issue that we were looking at. But we were looking at the year 2010, and in 2010, I believe an African American was 7 times more likely to be arrested for having a small amount of marijuana than someone who was white. And this was across New York State, and I believe Latinos were 4% higher. So he was looking at, in the state, the statistics when it was an officer's discretion whether to arrest or to give a violation. If someone was African American or Latino, they were much more likely to be arrested and wind up in jail, which would be on their permanent record, miss work, and I'd be interested in sort of looking at that and having a conversation about that. Thank you.
Councilmember Wingo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me just again share the sentiment of Council President Pridgen and my colleague, Councilmember Farrelletto, regarding the implications, which are so severe that you would potentially change a young person's life for the rest of their life for a decision they made when they were a teenager. So my position is as such. I agree that there needs to be a conversation where I'm not necessarily in agreement with the legalization of cannabis. I do think a conversation needs to be had around the decriminalization of cannabis, and that has to do everything with how youth are affected and how they are severely impacted when they are arrested at a very young age. And then when they turn 21, 22, they want to go to college, they can't get funding. If they want to get a job, have you ever been arrested? Have you ever been convicted? They have to answer these questions, yes. So I think that there is a conversation that needs to be had, and if there's anything that I can do personally to help advance that conversation, call the office, and we'll try to get that conversation started. Now, I'm not promising anything from this conversation, but I am big on education. So if we can help educate the community, and again, too, like Council President Pridgen said earlier, I mean, it's illegal right now, so don't do it, period. If it's illegal, don't do it. I tell my son all the time, if you ever get confronted by a law enforcement officer, you comply and then you call. I mean, there's no sense of you going blatantly against the law. Egregiously, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I would be willing to assist in facilitating the process of getting that conversation started. But I am all about education. And if I can be educated and we could disseminate that information to the rest of the community.
Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, Chair. I do want to make this plain, though. The reason I want to have the conversation, because now we're talking about people having small amounts on their person or whatever other areas they're talking about. However, I do want to make the observation that people have to go out and buy this right now, and they would have to go out and buy it later, which means they have to buy it from a criminal element. I want to be clear here, so I don't want, to wake up in the morning and be dubbed as the marijuana council member because I'm talking about having a conversation. Because I bury the people who get killed who are drug dealers. So I got to be very clear, because I know we got a lot of news here, and I want to be clear. It is illegal right now, and anyone who is using it, selling it, or carrying it, the law is the law. You work within the law to change the law. However, we got to look at this big picture when we have this conversation. That is not mom and pop right now growing 2 plants in their basement. It is a criminal enterprise. I'm concerned, like the other councilman, about young people, about records, but I am not in any way saying, hey, Mr. Criminal, keep going to Colombia or wherever you're getting marijuana, sorry for the slang, marijuana from, and keep bringing it in our communities, and we'll work on decriminalizing small amounts. I want to be clear. It's against the law right now, and it's criminals right now mostly. It's not people. Now, I'm sure there's some people saying, no, Councilmember, I grow weed in my basement. If you grow weed in your basement, you're still breaking the law. And it is against the law, and the people who are making the money on our young people right now are criminals because they're breaking the law. So I want to be careful. When I say a conversation, I'm not now saying, hey, criminals, go ahead and do it and tearing up our communities and doing. So I want to be clear, crystal clear. 247 Time Warner News. Make sure I'm clear. Sue Shulman, Buffalo News. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The best way to look at this
State your name
issue...
for the record. Huh? Can you state your name for the
My
record?
name is Henry Deacon. I think that the best way to look at this issue is through the lens of history. If we look at prohibition of alcohol, alcohol was treated the same exact way. And we realized how wrong we were about that. And now we treat cannabis the same exact way. The best way to look at the effects of criminalization of cannabis is through socioeconomic statistics. And a conversation is pretty important about this. And we can find people that, have studied economics and the social issues that we try to address with the criminalization and how wrong we have been in doing. I also wanted to address the denial of the permit for celebration for the CCA in New York State under saying that cannabis is illegal, but under New York State law it is not illegal for medical purposes. So having a denial of a permit, just saying it's illegal, doesn't seem to make sense because the law has it both legal medically, but also illegal recreation. So there's a kind of a splinter, and choosing one over the other seems to be more something that we should have a conversation about, the hypocrisy within the law.
Motion to table, Mr. Chairman, if there's no one else.
Motion is to table, seconded by Councilmember Farrelletto.